Good evening, guys, and welcome to tonight's video. So I'm going to talk tonight a bit about setting expectations, because I think this is another huge concept that if people sort of change their outlook on, they really could maximize their results, not just to get them, but to keep them. And this sort of ties into what I've talked about in the last few videos with sort of the scale weight not always moving, the two big factors in your weight loss journey being persistent, being consistent. So if you haven't seen them, do check those videos out. You'll find them on my YouTube channel, which is just my name, Nathan Bancroft. So feel free to check those out. And that sort of brings us today, which is sort of setting expectations, because I see so many people, not just every day, like multiple times a day, disappointed with what are actually great results. So I'll see people say things like, oh, I've only lost £6 this week. I've only lost £8 this week. And whilst it's good, it could have been more, and I wish it was a bit more. The thing is, that is ridiculous progress. Like, that is probably 6 times what you'd call a normal weight loss, okay? And people are disappointed by this. And I don't want to say that this is going to set you up for failure, but this is eventually going to make it, if you carry on this mindset, it's going to make it so much harder for you in the long term. And this journey, as you probably already know, is already really hard. You do not need to make this any harder for yourself, okay? Now, we already know that scale weight is not the be-all and end-all. There are lots of other ways to measure progress, and scale weight probably isn't the one that tells you the full story as such, but it can be useful in a sense, and most people do tend to use it, okay? So we do know that initially, when you start a new sort of change, a new diet, a new lifestyle, etc., you will get fast weight loss, okay? You could easily lose 6 to 10 pounds a week. However, this is going to slow. It may be in a week's time, maybe in a month's time, maybe in a year's time, but eventually you're not going to be able to keep that up, okay? Now, a lot of people do say, when you get to this point, 1 to 2 pounds a week is a good rate of weight loss. I would even say maybe even less than that. I would say maybe 2 pounds is if you're probably quite overweight. I would say a sort of a realistic way to sort of look at it is 0.5 to a pound a week, okay? And in this sense, this is sort of making sure that we're maximising fat loss, but also making it sustainable. Because, you could eat nothing and lose 10 pounds a week, but how long are you going to do that for? You're not going to do it for very long, okay? Now, I genuinely think this is one of the biggest differences between people that reach their goals and people that don't in terms of weight loss. Well, in terms of life, I suppose, as well, and jobs, careers, etc. It's setting these expectations and keeping going. Because if you're disappointed now that you're only losing £5 a week, how are you going to feel when 6 months down the line you lose £1 and then the next week you don't lose anything? Or maybe you don't lose anything for a month. How are you going to feel? If you're disappointed now, you've lost only £6 in a week and you lose nothing for a month 6 months down the line. How is that going to make you feel? I think this is genuinely where people quit, where most people quit, because they think they're not making progress when they are, okay? Just because it's not visible doesn't mean you're not making progress. And just because it doesn't match your unrealistic expectations that when you started doesn't mean it's not working. It is. It just isn't working as much as you want it to, okay? And I genuinely think that, like I said, this is where most people just give up. Because it's not that they're not making progress, it's they're not making progress in the way that they want to, but unfortunately that's just not how it works. You're not going to be able to lose £30 a month for 10 months because you're going to end up weighing nothing or next to nothing. It just isn't going to happen. And I think this leads on to a great concept. You may have heard of him. I follow a guy called Gary Vaynerchuk. It's nothing to do with weight loss, but he's very big in sort of business, entrepreneur. But I find him very inspirational. He's great with strategies. People will say he's very Marmite. You either like him or you don't. I love him because I think he tells it as it is, and I think we need that a lot more nowadays than what we get told. And he has a great concept where basically he calls it micro speed, macro patience. So basically in the micro, in the day-to-day, week-to-week, you need to move fast, Okay, you need to put in a lot of work, put in a lot of effort, and be consistent. And then in the macro, you need to be patient. Okay, so you need to be ridiculously patient. You need... A lot of people almost look at the macro, sort of the long term, as 6 months down the line. You need to look at your macro, your long term, as 1 to 5 years. Okay, and that's where, this is a long journey. I mean, you could almost look at your micro as a year, because let's be honest, this is the rest of your life. It's not just about losing the weight, it's about keeping it. So you could almost look at your short term as a year, 2 years, and your long term is the rest of your life. And when you put that into that perspective, the weight loss that sort of you used to think wasn't great is actually amazing. Because if you're only losing a pound a week, which to you now might sound rubbish, well, I'm going to lose a pound a week, that's rubbish. But if you lose a pound a week for 5 years, where are you going to be? Obviously it's not going to work exactly like that in math terms, but if this allows you to do it for 5 years rather than give up after 6 months, imagine where you could be. You'll not only probably be at the weight that you want to be, you'll probably be 2 years into keeping that weight off for the rest of your life. And that's where you need to look at that sort of shift in perspective, okay? Because, like I said, I genuinely think this is one of the biggest defining factors of whether you'll reach your goal or not. Because I think that when people get results all the time, but they give up, and it's that shift in perspective. So if you literally just keep going, you will get there, and that is it almost. Okay, like I've touched on in the other videos, you need to be consistent. So you need to do the right things the majority of the time. You need to be persistent. So you just need to keep doing it no matter what, and you need to be patient. So you need to do it for a long time. If you do all of those, you will do it. Simple as that. Okay, so hopefully you got some value from that, guys. If you did, please feel free to like, comment, and share. I always appreciate it. Have a great evening, and I shall see you on the next video. Thank you.